Welcome to today's video, everyone. Another exciting Lancaster archery unboxing, and we are continuing the Broadhead saga in today's video. We've been talking a lot about Broadheads lately, and what we have in this box is continuing that saga of Broadhead testing, of just kind of going over Broadheads. The Broadhead debate, probably the most controversial topic in archery, one of top three for sure. So let me get all these out, and then we'll talk about them. So what we have here is some of the most popular Broadheads that Lancaster Archery sells. And what I want to do is same thing we did with the expandable Broadhead test. We're going to do on a fixed blade Broadhead test. Now I know a lot of these. There's so many. There's probably like 20 relevant Broadheads, 20 relevant fixed ones, 20 relevant expandable ones that people are like shooting, that are in the market, that are popular. So of course we could do all of them, but I wanted to do 5, like the top 5 Lancaster Archery has been selling. I mean, these all might not be the top 5, but they're very high up. They're very popular, and I've shot all of them except for this one. But I'll shoot it today, and then that'll be our first go. So starting from left to right, we have the QED Exodus, pretty popular head, made by our friends over at QED, who also make the rests. A very interesting combo as a company. They make archery rests and then broadheads, kind of jumping one to another. And then definitely my favorite. Shot my moose with it last year. I've shot quite a few animals with this. The Montech G5. I feel like this is such a staple broadhead. It's been around for so long. Just your good standard 3-blade. You cannot go wrong with this at all. So we'll give that a shot. And then this is the Magnus Black Hornet Sur Razor. It's like a 2-blade with some serratedness going on with some little bleeder blades. So this is, I've used their broadheads actually for the turkey head choppers, but never like the actual broadheads. Okay, and then these are Grim Reaper Pro Series Micro Hades Pro. I believe I've used their regular Hades Pros, if that's a thing. These look pretty small. I didn't know they had a micro. But I shot an elk with this before. They work really good, they fly good, and what I remember is they're pretty dang sharp. And then this is definitely also a fan favorite, a Slick Trick. These have been around forever. I know a lot of guys that have used them. I think I've shot like 1 deer with them before, 1 or 2 deer before. This is the month of crickets. We have crickets in the shop. We need to exterminate them. Okay, so these are the broadheads that we are going to run through our group of tests today. And let's just go ahead and start open them up, starting with the QED. Okay, so you get 3 of these. So this is the QED Exodus Broadhead. Seems pretty robust. I need to grab an arrow to show you guys this. This is kind of a uniqueness that they have, but as you screw this onto the arrow, it actually slips over kind of the shaft. The blades do, so it's a super small profile compared to like, broadheads typically they would sit like right there, so that actually goes over. I don't know what this does, if this does anything. It's kind of a unique look, but yeah, it's so far so good. We're gonna do our famous sharpness test by slicing a piece of paper. So this is not scientific, but at least it gives a good visual. Okay. I would consider that pretty sharp. It's getting hung up a little bit, but it's definitely, if you catch it right, it can definitely slice good. But it is definitely getting hung up. There we go. But you can see there's a lot of like fraying in there, so that means that it's just not like razor sharp, but I don't know, I still consider that sharp. I'd be totally fine taking it out of the box and shooting it. Okay, up next is the G5 Montech. Out of all of these, I feel like this is one of the OGs. They've just been around forever. I've known so many people that have shot these, and I've had a lot of success. Like I said, I shot my moose with it last year. I had a 100% pass through. It was freaking awesome. It's actually up on the wall right here. It did perfect. Let me see. Has a little bit of wobble in it, but honestly, I feel like that's the insert compared to the Broadhead, because these inserts do bend a little bit. But really good. I know so many people that have used these, so let's take these out. Probably one of the most simpler Broadheads out of this lineup. It is a solid construction, so there's no parts. As you can see, this QED, there's like a couple parts there. All of these have several parts, where the Montech is just one solid piece. So simpler the better for some things, in my opinion. So we'll give this a sharpness test. Whew, not very sharp here. Okay, that was a little better. Not very sharp. It starts to go and then it kind of stops, I think. Maybe partially because it's that 3-blade configuration, but not great. But to the touch, I mean, I can slice my fingernail like that. So I don't know. I picked these up out of the box. I've shot them a lot. And one good thing about these is as you set them down on the table, if you have like a stone or something, what I'll do is you rub it on the stone. It's at a perfect angle to where when you lay it on the table, it's the correct sharpening angle. So that's super nice that you can just do that really quick and easy. But like I've said, I've taken those out of the package and shot them through stuff. I have no problems. Okay, up next, we got the Magnus. That's one thing I noticed about opening up all these Broadheads is no one has an awesome packaging yet for their Broadheads. Very interesting look of this Broadhead. Definitely the most unique looking Broadhead we've opened so far. Little like serrations right there. Then we got little bleeder blades that have cutting on both sides, and you got cutting on the back side of these too. So that's kind of nice that if you don't get a full pass through and it like pokes in, and then as the deer's running or the animal's running, it's kind of like doing a cutting motion. That's actually kind of nice to have that reverse cutting on there. So let's do our redneck sharpening test here. I don't even know with this serratedness, like you can't check the serratedness, so I might have to do the backwards blade, which that is not really cutting either. There we go, a little bit. Slightly. Let's try the little bleeder blades, which is very awkward to do. Yeah, that's not happening. Okay, it's very tough to check the sharpness on this because of the serration-ness right there. But it feels sharpish, it feels sharp. The true test will be penetration, I guess, to see how sharp some of these are. But, okay, Grim Reaper Hades. This is, I've heard a lot of people use these too. I know, like I said, I shot an elk with it. Did pretty good, but I had the bigger ones. These are pretty dang small. What we have a 1 1/16 inch cut, 1 1/16 inch cut, and then it says 1.6 inch total cut. Whatever that means. Maybe they mean like total circumference, but look at that little guy. That is a tiny little Broadhead. Honestly, pretty dang small. Like, let's compare it to, we got the Exodus, quite a bit bigger for cutting diameter. Then we have the Montech, a little bit bigger. Then we have the Magnus, which is way bigger. But the Hades, I think this is, yeah, there's 3 individual blades that you can slip in and out. We have the ferrule, very sharp front tip there, which Grim Reaper has been known for. They've been also known for their super sharp blades out of factory. So let's go ahead and try this on the sharpness test. I feel like this is probably gonna perform pretty good based on what I know. This one's so tiny. There we go. It's cutting, but I honestly feel like the expandables that we tested did way better at cutting than all of these fixed blades are. Like this one's cutting, but it's not just gliding. It takes quite a bit to get going. I don't know. It's not a great test that we're doing, but it shows the initial cutting, the Grim Reaper, Micro Hades. Very interesting head. The slick trick. How the heck do we open up this packaging? Might need a knife to do this. Worst packaging out of all of these so far is by far the slick trick. This is terrible. You're telling me that this is how I'm supposed to open this? By taking a knife and slicing it? Or am I doing this totally wrong? Don't think I am. Okay. We have the ferrule out. Okay. There we go. So, like I said, this comes disassembled, and we got blades here. I believe we have even some extra blades. No, we don't have extra blades because they send 4 of these broadheads in a package, which actually is kind of nice that you get 4 of them instead of 3. So to assemble this, you very carefully drop all these in. You kind of cross them. Oh, I know why. Because there's 2 different types of blades. This is the other part. Let me just try to not cut myself while getting this open. Okay, so this is the other blade. You can see the comparison of these 2 blades. There's a much more etched out front part that kind of intersects, I'm believing, with the other one is what's going on here. So let's try that again. There we go. Now that sits all nice and pretty there. We'll take our washer, drop that in, and there we go. That is a complete slick trick right there. 4 blade, feels pretty dang sharp, but I have always never liked having to do what I just did, mess around with the blades, or you take them off and then they all fall apart. But it is nice to be able to swap blades out, keep the same ferrule. You can buy a bunch of replacement blades, so that part is nice. Okay, let's see what we got. Ooh, that was pretty nice. Maybe spoke too soon. Not bad. One of the thinner blades, I think the thinness of the blades helps in this quote-unquote test. Not bad. Probably one of the better performing ones. Between the QED and this is probably the sharpest ones if I were to say so. So, okay guys, so what we're gonna do now is, this is the fun part. We're gonna shoot this bad boy through some gel. But some first initial thoughts on all of these bad boys, I'm just gonna line them up, is they're all pretty comparable in size within reason. The Hades Micro is probably the smallest, but all of their quality looks really good and they're all relatively sharp. The Montech might be the least sharpness, but I picked these up, I've shot them, I still believe they're sharp enough to kill right out of the box. Probably the sharpness is this little slick tricky guy over here. But besides that, all quality looks good, everything looks good. And we are going to set up the ballistics gel, shoot through it, and see what we get for some penetration out of these 5 broadheads. Okay guys, the next step in this test is going to be the ballistics gel. Yes, I'm wearing a different shirt. Yes, it's a different day. Yes, my hair is probably shorter because I got a haircut. It's a couple days after we filmed the rest of this video, and we forgot to bring the extra camera. Or we did bring the extra camera. It just didn't work. it malfunctioned. For some reason, we got like the start of the clip and then didn't get the rest. So the slow motion is definitely the coolest part. So we have all of our arrows again. We're just gonna shoot them through and see what we got. And I know what they did the first time, but you guys don't. So I'm kind of interested if they're gonna do the same thing. And I guess we can show you the other gel. We literally had to get a whole other gel and everything just for this segment. Do we remember what order we shot them in? It doesn't matter. We'll just do this one first. This is the Grim Reaper Hades, Micro Hades. And we'll do them in the same sort of grid pattern that we've been doing. Gotta get my stance on. Okay. Nice. Wow, I feel like that went way deeper than before. We had a piece of cardboard on last time, didn't we? I think we did. So no cardboard on. Hopefully I don't regret that because they're going a little bit deeper. But it'll be fine. It'll be the same control as everything. Okay. Next we have the G5 Montec that, like I've talked about, I've shot my moose with this. I've shot a lot of things with this broadhead. It's a tried and true broadhead. Nice. Man, it's almost going all the way through the whole block. So beats the Grim Reaper by a little bit, which it did the same in the last test also. Okay, up next we have the QED Exodus, which is one of the bigger ones. Both the G5 and the Grim Reaper are pretty small form factor. This is a little bit bigger. I don't know, I forget what the actual cut is, but just visually, I mean, the blades stand out way further. Very nice. Okay, so it is dang near tied with the G5. So they're all right there, they're all close. Okay, next we'll do the slick trick. This is the only 4-blade of this test. So, you know, theoretically we should have like more drag on this and stuff, but we'll see what this test is. I kicked a little funny. Oh wow, yeah. So we have way less than the rest of them. I feel like the prior 3, that's in a tight little group, and then this one's kind of all on its own. Okay, and then we have the Magnus Stinger, broadhead looking weird thing with the big bleeder blades, which I do like. It has reverse cut on both sides, so I do like that, but that's not gonna matter at all for this test. But it is our like biggest broadhead, which probably is going to increase the drag and the friction, so let's see what it does. Ooh, I nearly missed the thing, but we're good. And that is very surprising. So it actually cut more than the slick trick. So our slick trick is our loser. Let's go ahead and do this. So we have in the winning spot, man, it is so tough to tell, but I'm gonna say it's a tie between the QED Exodus and the G5 Montec. Then we have, man, I feel like the Hades Pro is just a little bit farther than the Magnus, and then we have Slick Trick. I guess we could do it reverse way that way, but that's the same result. But let me grab the other gel that we shot the first time. Shooting through a lot of gel for you guys. So let's lay this down now, like this. Okay, so this is all of our gel and all of our broadheads. It's kind of crazy to look at. The only difference between these two and this one is I did not put a piece of cardboard in the front, which I suppose I should have just for controlled sake, but it's fine, no worries. So we have very similar results. We have the Montec and the Exodus in the lead in both of these, so we did the test twice. And then we have the Hades and the Stinger, and really close up here and really close down here, and then the Slick Tricks in last place in both of them. So we kind of accidentally did the test twice, but it's kind of cool to show the control of everything. And also what's really interesting is to see how far back these expandables are from these fixed blades. So we still have the dead meat in the lead because of just the, you know, the way it is, less blades and super sharp blades and all that. We did that test on there, but it's still further behind than all these fixed blades. It's really close to the Slick Trick, but still a little bit behind. So cool test. You know, I mean, it's just kind of fun to look at this and see this. I kind of want to just like put it on the shelf and just look at it. But that's the test. The winner, we're gonna say, let's see, this is G5 arrow. And then the middle one is the Exodus. So in this case, I think the Exodus barely won. But in our prior one, the G5 just barely won. So we're gonna call it a tie between the G5 and the Exodus for penetration. On to the next test. Okay, I'm gonna shoot a field tip real quick just to double check one last time my point of impact. Aiming at that little orange dot down there. I think it went a little right, didn't it? High right, just a touch, okay. That should be cash money. I will not move my sight at all anymore. And what I think we're just gonna shoot all of these all in one go, and then we'll kind of see what our group is. So, what we started with was the QED Exodus. So these arrows, I have the B-roll X veins on it, and a 4 fletch, which is really nice and forgiving for fixed blades like these. When like I set up a bow to shoot fixed blades, this is typically the setup I'm running, and then I'll run through, do all of my distances, and I should be able to hit right on with my field tip. So this is the same setup that we're shooting. And we'll see if we can hit about the same on all these. We should. I mean, there should be no reason we shouldn't. And if there is, it's just like a weird thing, and sometimes broadheads do weird things that are unexplainable. For the most part, but let's see what we got here. Okay, that was a good shot. I feel like that went pretty far right. Is it? Okay, that's good. So next we did the Montec. I know that this one shoots, when I get it dialed in, it shoots really good. I've been able to, like last year when I knew I had to shoot fixed blades for a moose hunt, I was able to do 20 yards all the way to 100. It was hitting right on with my field tips, so I know this bad boy shoots good when it's all dialed in. Same spot, right? Just about? A little lower? It's good, we're grouping. That's all we're looking for is grouping. What do we do next? The Magnus. Now this one, I feel like might do something kind of funky. Who knows, it's just a lot. It's quite a bit out front. You can see that it's just quite a bit. What I like to do too, I'll note, when I shoot these fixed blades, if it's a 2-blade or a 3-blade, I try to run them as horizontal as possible, or as my fletching's allowed. And if I have like a 3-blade, what I like to do is run them like this, so that the 2 blades are kind of a little bit more horizontal. I don't think it really matters a whole lot, but it's more so just consistency. You line them up kind of the same for every single arrow, and it just makes sure that it's kind of flying the same out of the bow. Okay, we'll give this one a go. That actually didn't fly that bad. Loud. That seemed pretty loud on the back end. What do we do next? Hades? Yeah, Slick Trick was last. Okay, little micro Hades. I will say, I think I forgot to mention this, these are all 100 grain broadheads. So nothing weird like that. They're all 100 grain. Man, it seems like they're all flying pretty good. They're all hitting a little bit right of impact, or right of the dot, which is totally fine. We're just looking for groups. Now, when I tested Slick Tricks last, I had some troubles with them. So I don't know if that was that arrow setup, that bow setup, or whatever, but I'm interested to see if this is gonna land with the rest of them or if it's gonna be funky. Seemed pretty decent. Okay, let's go down there, we'll take a look. Pretty awesome group out of all of these, actually. I think this was my field tip, if I remember right. Yeah, so my field tip was right there. So I was a little high right, and I did move it, adjust it for elevation probably correctly, and got it down to there, but I just didn't give it enough clicks to the right. But these are all the Broadheads. They actually shot pretty freaking awesome, all these. And I think that goes in compared to our expandable test. Our expandable test, I was running a super small heat vane. It was a 4-fletch, wasn't it? Yeah, and then I jumped up and I actually shot these arrows and they really tightened up. So I think that just is a proof to the pudding that shooting a big vane is so important when shooting broadheads. Even though you're gonna have a little bit more noise, a little bit more drag, nothing that is a big deal, but it just goes to show that it's so important just to have a good flight. So we got all these, let's pull them out one by one, let's see what we got. QED Exodus, the little high right of the group. Got the Hades right there in the middle. We got the Montec right there in the middle. That big Hoss actually didn't do that bad. It was slightly left, and the lowest one was a Slick Trick, but again, human variance in there, and really awesome, solid group out of all these. I mean, that was from 60 yards, and they all were within like a 4-inch group of each other. So all of these will fly good, and the most important thing, as always, is your bow setup, your form, and your shooting. As long as your bow is set up correctly, your arrows are set up correctly, you can probably get any sort of broadhead to shoot good. And these are all pretty small form factor ones. I'm not shooting like a big giant 2-blade single bevel, anything like that. If you're shooting a giant 2-blade single bevel, it can get kind of interesting at some farther distances because it's just so much out front, but these are really small, and for a fixed blade, they all fly pretty dang good. So what we're gonna do now is a noise test like we did in our expandable one. We're gonna shoot right over the mic and just kind of compare. I know last time it was very apparent that the Schwacker was the most quiet, and then all the other ones were pretty comparable. So I'm interested to see if one of these is gonna stand out as the quietest and the loudest, because it does matter at how loud your arrows are. It's actually incredible shooting from further distances. The deer can't hear your bow go off past 30, 40 yards. They just can't, especially with a little bit of breeze. If there's leaves out, you just can't hear that far in the woods, but unless it's perfectly quiet. But what they do hear is your arrows coming at the animal. So we're gonna do that, see what we got. Okay, so we're gonna do our noise test now. Shooting in the same order, we are going to do QED Exodus first, which has no like ventilation slots. It's pretty much a solid construction broadhead, so it should be pretty quiet. But we're gonna give it a go, shooting right over the camera. Or next to it. Okay, up next, the Montec, which has a good amount of vents or ventilation cutouts in the broadhead. So with that, there's going to be a little bit more noise, but I always like a little bit of ventilation in the broadhead because I feel like it creates some more drag, which helps the broadhead steer a little bit better, helps it be a little bit more forgiving. So always pros and cons with that. Definitely a little noisier. So now we have the Magnus. Should be a little louder because of that, the big vents in there and the little bleeder blades, but we'll see. Okay. Next we have the Hades Pro. Little tiny vents. There are little cutouts in the blades, but they are pretty small, just because it is a pretty small broadhead. Ooh, hit an arrow down there. That is gonna be broken. At least they're grouping. And last but not least, we have the Slick Trick. Again, a good amount of ventilation in the blades, and we do have 4 blades, so we have more surface area. Okay. And we have a field tip. I guess we should do that just to see a control. Very quiet compared to all the broadheads, you can tell. Okay, so next what we're going to do is we are going to shoot through a sheet of plywood, because we can. Okay, so for our final redneck broadhead testing stage, we have a scrap piece of plywood. Very nice, with a half a circle cut out of it, for a little DIY project I did a little while ago. But we have, I think it's just a 1/2 inch, it might be 3/4 sheet of plywood. And all we're gonna do is we're gonna shoot through it. We're gonna kind of see what sort of damage it does if we get a pass through, and then actually look over the broadheads afterward and see if there's any bending or anything that happened. Or maybe it'll just blow up, who knows. So this is gonna be loud probably, and I'm kind of excited to see what's gonna happen. So we will go in the same order. Once again, we have the QED Exodus. I'll kind of work left to right. This is gonna be loud. Blew right through that sucker. I actually want to look at them one at a time, because I'm very interested. Okay, so blew right through, nearly was a full pass through, ripped my fletchings off. My arrows are gonna be destroyed after this, but that's okay. And broadhead seems to be perfectly fine, intact, and quite a bit of busting there. So it blew through just fine. Seems to be fine. They may all be fine, who knows. G5 Montech. Blew right through that sucker again. This sheet of plywood might be no problem for any of these broadheads, who knows. Blew right through, no problems whatsoever. And good amount of blowing out the back. So let's try her again. I hope one of these just blows up. That's kind of my thought. We can shoot out a cinder block, but you guys got offended last time I did that. Okay, next is the Magnus. Blew right through that sucker too. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. This might be too easy of a test for this. And honestly, they're all getting hung up in the fletchings because that's the only snag point. I bet if it was a bare shaft, they would fly right through it. Okay, we got the Hades Pro Mini. that sucker blew right through it. Stuck in the dirt. Look at that hole. Then we got this right out the back. If I had to guess, that blew through just because of the sheer size. It's so small that there really wasn't a whole lot to stop it. Blew right through. Fletchings are perfectly fine. We're good to go. Last but not least, we have the slick trick. Okay, that got stopped. Got stopped with nothing wrong on the broadhead. Man, I was really looking forward to one of these blowing up. All about the same destruction with, you know, if we had to choose one person to win, it was probably the Hades, just because it blew through. But you get this it's a really small broadhead. I mean, it's almost a field tip, it's so small. Okay, so as conclusion to this video, I don't think there's one clear winner. Fixed blades are very interesting to me because they are all so very closely similar. Like, they all about have the same cutting diameter, they all are about the same sharpness, they all fly about the same, and you know, it's just very different compared to expandables, where I feel like there is a pretty large variance of differences, how they operate, how they open, the size of them, the design of them, how much is out in front of the arrow. And of course, we could have picked some different ones of these where it's like, wow, that's very different and stuff, which we could have, and maybe we'll do that in a future video. But you know, a couple winners. So it's like we had Montech and Exodus pretty much tied on the penetration test. Sharpness test was probably the slick trick, maybe the Grim Reaper. Accuracy, they all flew fine. I mean, they all landed in a group about like that from 60 yards. So that just proves that, yes, they can be tuned. Yes, they can be properly set up for probably most setups out there. So that's totally fine. They all blew through the sheet of plywood. The winner there was probably the Hades, just because it's so small that it blew right through it. So you probably will be able to crush through like a rib or something the easiest with one of these. No clear winner. It's I don't know the sound test yet because we haven't reviewed the footage, but probably the Exodus is going to win that just because there is no ventilation. You can experience some planing though with this bad boy, and we didn't this time, and it's probably a little setup dependent and depends on if you have some wind or not and some longer distances. But that's why I love a little ventilation in the broadhead. It helps with forgiveness and stability, and you do sacrifice on some noise, but overall these are pretty dang close. And what I have been using lately is this G5 Montech, and I probably, if I had to choose one that I know is going to be solid and overall just best all around, I'd probably honestly would choose this one. And I shot my moose with it. It did totally fine, blew right through it. I had it tuned 20 to 100 yards, and I've also done that with the Hades broadhead. When I shot that elk, it was no problems. I had it tuned 20 to 100 yards. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Kind of another interesting runaround with some broadheads. Such a very interesting and controversial topic. I'm sure you guys will have a ton of concerns and questions in the comments below. You guys have fun down there. And we will be sure to keep this train rolling on some broadheads for future videos because it is fun. It's very controversial, and I enjoy doing them and seeing how you guys react and comment and like them. So hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to check out Lancaster Archery Supply for all of your archery needs at lancasterarcherysupply.com. So we will catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.